It's September. The kind of morning where the chill hits your bones before the sun fully rises. I should have known something was off from the moment I got out of bed. The air felt heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. My mother, Leona, had packed my lunch like she did every morning. Same brown paper bag, same sandwich, peanut butter and jelly, with an apple on the side. It's small comforts like that remind you, even in the darkest times, there's something that doesn't change. I didn't expect much that day. A shift at the factory, like always. Same machines, same people. It's a small town. Everything's predictable. But when I walked in and saw the looks on their faces, I should have known. A box. A cold handshake. They told me my position was eliminated just like that. No explanation. No, thank you for your service. Just sorry, Ethan. We have to let you go. I couldn't believe it. 10 years. A decade of my life. Gone. Driving home felt like I was in a fog, my mind swirling with a mixture of disbelief and anger. I wasn't prepared for what came next, though. Marielle was waiting when I walked through the door. Her face, pale and cold, told me everything. She didn't need to say it, but she did anyway. You're worthless, she spat, eyes burning with a pain I didn't understand. I'm taking the kids. Her words didn't just break me, they destroyed me. Nolan and Tessa. My kids. I couldn't even make sense of it. She packed their things quickly, without a word, and I just stood there, paralyzed. The kids, Nolan, my 10-year-old, with his big eyes that always made me feel like I was the hero, and Tessa, my 7-year-old, who still believed I could fix anything, both stood there, silent. I watched them leave, their little faces confused, lost. I stood there alone, in that empty house, with nothing but memories. Their crayon drawings on the fridge, a photo of me holding Nolan's hand at his first soccer game. I grabbed my lunch bag, the one that had been packed with love by my mother. The same lunch I'd carried with me for years. I stepped outside into the cool night air, wandering aimlessly down the streets, the weight of the world on my shoulders. My father's voice echoed in my head, his words, always practical. Do your best, Ethan, no matter what. But it felt hollow now. What was I doing? What was left of me? I wandered for what felt like hours before I stumbled upon Daryl's Diner. It was a hole-in-the-wall place, glowing warmly between a pawn shop and a gas station. The smell of coffee and grilled bacon wrapped around me, like a lifeline, and I ducked inside, desperate for a moment's escape. I slid into a booth, staring at the coffee in front of me. I barely recognized the man looking back at me from the reflection in the glass. Tired, defeated, empty. The world around me seemed to blur until a voice broke the silence. You look just like my son. I turned to find an old man, Harlan. I would come to know him as sitting across from me. His eyes were tired, but sharp. His face, weathered with age, had a deep sadness. But what caught my attention was the way he looked at me, as though he could see right through my mask. He told me his son disappeared 35 years ago. Just gone. The pain in his eyes matched my own, but he wasn't lost in it. He'd lived with it, carried it. And it hit me hard, the realization that a father could disappear, not physically, but emotionally. And that maybe, just maybe, that was the kind of man I was becoming. Don't abandon them like me. The words were simple, but they tore through the layers of grief and confusion I'd built up around myself. Harlan's voice was rough, worn down by years of loss, but there was something undeniable in his words. Something real. He told me about his son, how he worked too much, neglected the small moments, and then one day his son was just gone. Not in body, but in heart. Harlan's voice shook as he spoke, and I couldn't help but feel the weight of what he was saying. Could I, too, be on the path to making the same mistake? To abandoning my kids without even realizing it? I didn't know how to respond at first. My job was gone. My wife, too. I felt like a failure. But Harlan, in his quiet way, made me realize something. The love I had for Nolan and Tessa wasn't tied to a job or to anything external. It was in my presence. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to show up. His words echoed in my head, bouncing around with a new clarity. Don't let fear decide for you. I sat there, listening to this stranger as he laid out his pain. His advice, no matter how simple, became a lifeline. He was telling me to fight for my children, not with anger, not with pride, but with love. To not let Marielle's words or my own insecurities define who I was as a father. When I left the diner, something in me had shifted. I didn't have all the answers, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a purpose. I knew what I had to do. I drove to Marielle's sister's house with Harlan's words still rattling in my head. Don't abandon them like me. The air outside felt thick, like the world was holding its breath along with me. When I knocked on the door, Marielle opened it with a look of surprise that quickly shifted to irritation. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "I came for Nolan and Tessa," I said, my voice firm despite the shaking in my hands. "I'm not leaving without seeing them." She hesitated, looking at me as if trying to decide if this was worth the fight. But then something changed. Maybe it was my tone. Maybe it was the memory of Nolan's birth, the moment I had promised I would always protect them. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't a failure either. The moment Nolan's voice cracked from the other room, calling, "Dad," that's when it hit me. The look on his face, desperate to see me, broke something in me. Tessa followed, her small arms wrapped around my neck in a hug that was too tight, too needed. I kneeled, holding them both close, the weight of my failure and my love for them mixing into something pure. "I'm not perfect, but I love you. I'm not giving up on you," I whispered. Marielle, watching from the doorway, didn't speak, but I saw something shift in her eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe, just maybe, a glimpse of respect. In the weeks that followed, I fought. I took on odd jobs, worked long hours just to prove to myself that I could still provide, no matter how small the task. I showed up for Nolan and Tessa every day. It wasn't perfect. Marielle was distant, her words still sharp, but I refused to let that stop me. I loved them. That was enough. One evening, I found myself back at Daryl's diner. I wanted to thank Harlan, but when I asked the waitress about him, she gave me a strange look. "He died years ago," she said, her tone kind but firm. I sat there, stunned. Was Harlan real? Or had he been a vision, someone sent to help me find my way? Either way, his words stuck. As I walked out of the diner, I whispered a thank you into the empty air. I didn't need to know if he was real or not. I only knew that his advice had saved me from losing everything. I wasn't the man I once was, but I was becoming something new. Someone who showed up for his children, who loved them with all the broken pieces of himself. In the end, Harlan's lesson stuck with me. Our worth isn't in the jobs we lose or the relationships we fight to save. It's in the quiet, everyday moments we show up. For the people who need us most. For the ones we love. A person's worth isn't measured by their job, their success, or their mistakes. It's measured by their commitment to those who need them, especially when it's hardest to stay. Showing up, broken, tired, or uncertain, is the most powerful act of love you can offer.